I'd like to call, after we finish listening to the lovely music, good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the May 27th, 2015 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. Moving on to the agenda for tonight, the first item of business is a request for certificate of compliance continued from a prior meeting, RMX Northeast Inc., concerning DEP file number 2060705. The project location is 90 through 124 Swan Street. I was out there today with Swathi. I don't know if anyone else, went out there to look at it. I mean, the only comment that I had, and we addressed it with the, who is it, Joe Silver, I believe, was out there with us, yeah, from the housing complex, was that on the easterly, I don't have a copy of the map, but on the smaller L-shaped, thanks. Yeah, on the easterly riprap section, just if they wanted to take some of those weeds out that were a little bit closer to the wetland flags and just, on the wetland side of the grass, and, you know, like a 4 or 5 foot buffer of more of a hardy shade shrub type species that would promote stabilization in there. But other than that, I don't have any further comments, and I would entertain a motion for a COC, but I don't know if Commissioner Varnum has any comments.
I thought it looked a lot better than it did back in the winter. They've smoothed out the rocks, and it looks to me like it's going to keep the water from eroding that area again. Probably something with more roots than those weeds to hold the soil would be a good idea. Maybe they could either seed it or shrub it, as you say.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I think Swathi, you had the same thoughts. So, and they seem to be amenable to working with us, and they have an open NOI, open OOC on the neighboring parcel anyway. So, you know, and they seem very agreeable to work and finish this up. But at this time, I don't see any reason to delay their request. So.
I'd move to issue the certificate of compliance.
I will second that.
Order 206-705.
All right, so motion by Commissioner Varnum, seconded by Commissioner Lovely. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Moving on, notice of intent also continued from prior hearing. C&B Realty Trust concerning DEP file number 2060739. Project location is 577 Rear, or R, Lawrence Street, and it's to stabilize the bank of the River Meadow Brook to prevent erosion. And if you could just identify yourself again for the record.
With Eagle Brook Engineering. We had a public hearing a couple of months ago where the commission wanted us to change the design of the bank stabilization project. So what we have before you is a revised set of plans and a report from Seacamp Environmental, which is a bank restoration with vegetation and toe protection with a hardscape. Just to summarize, since our last meeting, after our public hearing, I received a phone call from Heidi Davis from DEP. She's the reviewing agent on this project, and she had a concern about the original design. And I went over her the reasoning as far as why I came up with the design. So I suggested to her to go out to the site and take a look at it. So we did do that with her about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we met Heidi out there and went over the site and field conditions. A couple things that she noted when she was out there, that when she was looking at stream sats, there's like 27 square miles of watershed coming to this point, and she was surprised at the amount of, or the high velocities in this area, because it's coming out of the building and it's just being restricted, and then it opens up, and the velocities are pretty high along the edges. So we basically came up with a design, and we can look at the north slope. That seems to be the easiest one. For those of you that are out there, it's a much shallower slope. It's only about 2 feet in height. The design is to install 2 core logs at the bottom of the slope. Also to install a kind of granite deflector at the very beginning, which would be near the footbridge, to kind of protect the core log, especially the first 5 or 10 feet of it, so it doesn't get undermined with the velocities, so water would just kind of flow along the edge of the toe of the bank. Then slightly flatten the slope. There's a profile on the first sheet which kind of shows that slope being slightly flattened out. And install topsoil, and then put vegetated plantings both on the slope and on the top of the slope. And that is, as far as the plantings and the type of plantings, that's on table 1 of the report, and it's also on sheet 2 of the plan set. And that would extend from roughly the footbridge to probably maybe about 3 or 4 feet beyond the drain invert that's existing right now. Would you like to discuss the north side, or you want to go to the south side?
No, go ahead.
On the south side, it's a little bit more complicated, so we broke it up into 2 areas. The first area between the 2 existing trees, those obviously trees are going to remain. It's a very steep slope, but it has a very good root mass right now, and it's fairly stable. So we don't want to touch it as far as regrading. What we want to do is insert plugs along that inside and along from bottom to top of that slope, basically to provide additional root mass, and also to provide more vegetated covering along that slope. That first tree with the roots, it kind of actually protects that slope a little bit because it kind of juts out a little bit. So that area would just be plugging, not any grading between the 2 trees. On the south side, in between the footbridge and the first tree, that's where we're going to install, there's existing granite blocks there now in the riverbed. Utilize those as toe protection, and then grade that slope at a 1.25 to 1, and then install a geocell membrane, and then fill those, if you've seen those, the kind of honeycomb type holes within that membrane, fill those with topsoil, and then plugs within those holes along the entire slope. That would be from the footbridge to the first tree. And then at the top of the bank, vegetated plantings. The planting schedule for that south side is actually table 2, which is again in the report from CCAMP, and then on the plan set. All right. I did talk to Heidi Davis yesterday to make sure she received the revised plans. She didn't have any issues as far as the revised information that she received. Her only concern was she wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure that it, was going to work, because she was just, surprised when she went out there, the velocity of the existing river. So that's a summary of all the changes we made to the plan since our last meeting. In your package, you have a report from CCAMP dated May 13th, which kind of goes into detail as far as the work to be performed. Most of that work would actually be done, or all of it would be done by a landscape contractor, and that's be supervised by Patrick or somebody of his qualifications as far as the planting.
All right. So I guess I'm I have a question on the plan. You've got some, or you have some dark dashed lines on both the north and the south bank. There's two of them on each bank, and I'm not quite sure what those are. Are those the regraded topographies? I mean, what is that?
No, those dark lines, the one that's closest to the toe is, and it's actually the approximate location of the top of bank, which is the statutory bank. So that's that dark line closest to the water's edge. So that's statutory bank. The other line, which is near the top, is actually your riverfront boundary. So that defines your actual statutory riverfront boundary lines. So those aren't proposed lines or anything of that sort. It just defines your statutory bank and your riverfront statutory area.
All right, it's just, what I'm looking at isn't labeled, so I'm...
Yeah, I think they're labeled, the labeling for it is screened on the plan. I can show you if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, did I miss that somehow, or?
So this is riverfront boundary here, going to the dark line. This is the approximate location of the top of the bank. And the same thing here, riverfront boundary here. And then here's your statutory bank.
All right, well, okay, I guess it's a little confusing because the line's, prominent and dark, and the explanation is shaded out, so, okay. So, on the north side, you're going to be taking some bank out.
On the north side, we're going to be taking some bank, so we're going to flatten it slightly, go to a 2-to-1 slope, and then on the slope itself would be shrubs, and along there's 13 shrubs that are proposed for that north side. That's in table 1 of the report and on the plan set. So there's 13 shrubs on the slope and then on top.
Okay, and on the south side, the plan is to bring it back to the original grade in the shaded section.
In the shaded section, no, that's where we're going to install plugs.
Okay, all right.
So that's the area we don't want to touch as far as regrading it, but we want to stabilize it, so we're going to put plugs. Right now, there's
Okay,
a root mass that kind of is binding everything
So,
together.
so you're establishing the original closer to the bridge then, where the granite blocks are going to be placed?
Yes.
Now, are those granite blocks, those 5 granite blocks in total, are they already in the riverbed? Are those
Yes.
the ones that you were planning on moving because they were displaced?
Yes, those are existing blocks that are actually in the bed today.
Right, okay. You're not introducing new ones?
Now, if we need,
I'm a little troubled by that, as needed.
well, if we want to be able to put the granite blocks along that toe for about that 25-foot distance to that first tree. And so if we need another granite block, we're going to need to get one. We want to be able to put those blocks from the bridge to the first tree. Also, we want a granite block on the north side, as I call it out, as a deflector block, just to deflect water away from the slope on the north side.
Okay, now what are these core logs? What are those?
Core logs are comes in different diameters.
That's a new term for me, so
All right, so it's a log similar to like an erosion control log that's staked on the ground, except that there's plants that would it's seeded, so the plants that grow out of it. So you want to plant it in low flow, and hopefully that material will kind of biodegrade, and then the root mass will kind of take hold of that toe. And so we're going to have one on top of each other.
Okay, so these are already like a pre-engineered.
Yeah, pre-seeded, not engineered, but preceded logs.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
And they're used all over as far as stream bank erosion, as far as, this type of work.
Okay, couple things. One, thank you for doing this, for, spending some time and giving some thought, and I'm liking the direction that this is going. I'm a little, and that's something we can handle in conditions, but I'm a little reluctant to allow the language and provide additional granite as needed to be placed in the riverbank, okay, or the riverbed.
Well, if we run short on the granite and then we don't stabilize this toe, then everything we're doing is just a waste of time. We need to stabilize the toe. I think that's critical. If you want this project to succeed and have this bank stabilized on the south side, we're gonna need, and if we need an additional block, we need to place it. We just can't say we're not gonna put a block there.
Well, how many do you have out there now that are available to be used? I mean, you're showing 5 really on your plan, or 6, but
Right now, there's 5 that's in the river right now. I've got pictures of them. You wanna see them?
no, that's okay. I think we've seen the pictures already, so.
There's 5 of them. I also need a block on the north side, and so if I need an additional block, I want to be able to place a block there also.
All right, Commissioner Varnum?
I had a great tour of South Lowell today and finally found this place.
It's hard to get to.
Very difficult. You do have one block on that north side. Is that the one that's going up to support the bridge?
That's the one that kind of got dislodged under the footbridge. We're going to take that and kind of place it back where it was.
So if you use that one under the bridge, you in fact don't have any blocks at the moment to use on the north side?
Correct. I think we're going to have an issue. I mean, I'm not 100% positive, but I put that language in because I just want to make sure I have,
Yeah.
granite block for both, one for the north side and then the blocks I
Well-
need for the south side.
After all the drought we've been having, to see the velocity of that river, I would think that you definitely need some kind of blocks for the first 20 feet at least, coming out under that building. I did have a question about, you have silt fence out there. Is that the limit of work, or did you stop short of where you'll be working?
Well, on the north side, we're only going to maybe 5 feet beyond the existing drain outlet, so that would be, you see the drain outlet on the north side?
Yeah, but that tree there is fairly undermined. The roots are kind of hanging in midair. You can't do anything to stabilize that?
I mean, we could put in that root mass topsoil and then throw plugs in there to try to have some root mass grow where the tree is, as far as where the roots are right now.
To just skip, since we're still on the north side, I believe it's the north side where that tree, it's a Norway maple, and it's very full. And I'm wondering if your suggested shrubbery can take that much shade. I wondered if perhaps the lower limbs could be pruned up a bit to get some more sun in there.
Which tree are we talking about?
I'm talking about the north slope, the one that's right on the bank. I think that's the one I'm talking about.
That's the,
Yeah,
okay, yep.
it's a huge tree, foliage-wise.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I'd just like to see the shrubs have a chance.
Right.
If your arborist thinks that it's fine and they'll love it there, that's okay.
Right. No, we could limit if, in fact, we need to. I know that the normal maple is an invasive, so, you really want to take it out, but our plan isn't to turn.
Oh, I don't mean take the tree out. I just mean take some lower limbs off,
Right,
maybe.
right.
Yeah. On the south bank, you don't seem to plan anything beyond that second tree.
Correct.
It seemed to me that way back when the enforcement order was issued, it seems like the property owner was going to pull back materials. And it seemed to me, just looking at it, that there's probably is 6 inches or more of material still in that area between the trees. They're mostly crushed stone. And then beyond the second tree, there are piles of, I don't know if I'd call it loam. It didn't look like, but it's loose material like loam that's right on the top of the bank. And that was one of our issues with the enforcement order, that, loose material was too near the stream. And if no work is planned beyond that, I would think that, the work isn't finished out there until something's done to stabilize those piles. And it seems like those piles shouldn't be there, in my mind.
I haven't been there in a couple of weeks, so I know the area, but you're talking about the soil that's sitting on top of the bank?
Right at the edge of the bank, on the edge of the parking lot.
I mean, we can remove that. I know that when he had the enforcement order, he did the work, and then somebody from inspections came out and looked at it and said, that was fine. So he hasn't done anything since then. But as far as, removing those soil piles in that area they're talking about, we can remove that from the top of the bank.
Okay. And another issue was down in the bed of the brook, there are quite a few man-made objects, bricks, stone, cut stone, that I feel shouldn't be there, should be hauled out of there before you finish your work.
Where are you talking?
They're sort of, most of them are between those two trees on the south bank. There's probably quite a few big bricks. The water's flowing over, and
Right, right.
Closer up to the bridge, there's quite a few cobblestones, I'd call them, that obviously aren't natural. They're cut square. And it seems like when you're working in there, you should be able to easily pull out those objects that fell in.
Yeah, and a lot of it, some of it might have been, falling in from materials they have on site. Some of it's been there, probably for a long time, because obviously this is,
Right.
A mill area, and it's been developed for probably over 100 years. So I think in the report, I think Patrick Seacon talks about the glass, the bricks, and so
Right.
forth that he's seen within the soil itself.
Yeah, well, this is our chance to get it all cleaned up, in my mind, so I'd like to see some of that debris removed. I think that's all I had.
Commissioner Lovely? All right. All right, well, at this time, I'd like to introduce our two new members, Brian Toner and Jeff McDonough, who were recently sworn in as members. However, I don't believe they've participated in the earlier sessions of this public hearing, so they won't be participating in the administration of this order of conditions and NOI. Yeah, Commissioner Varna makes some good points about that, and I guess, I guess what we could do with respect to utilization of additional granite blocks as needed is we could perhaps put if we were going to condition this, is put a condition that you'll give us notice as to the size and prior to placement. Because, and I understand you don't know what you have out there, because you're gonna be pulling them out of the riverbed. So, we don't have an exact measurement as it stands now. You're giving us an approximate measurement. Do you feel that you have sufficient granite blockage to do this footprint as you're indicating, or you're just not certain?
I think the reason I put it in there, because I think I might be short one block.
Okay, all right. So, and again, I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with bringing one in to provide the protection that you need to do this, okay, but just to let us know.
Okay.
Okay.
Couldn't we just have one of the conditions where it says as needed, in consultation with the Lowell Conservation Commission?
Yeah, I suppose we can do that, but I don't want to overly regulate it. You know, if they can do it in this footprint, then that's fine. Okay. You know, you gave us the cross-section of it, and which I appreciate. The, before I open it up for public comment, Swati, have we cross-checked the plantings on the invasives? There's a couple of them I'm unfamiliar with, so, and I know the invasive species list isn't very long, but I didn't have an opportunity to cross-check them myself, so.
What we usually provide them is, once the landscape contractor is on board, I provide the applicant with the list of the invasive species, and they submit us a final planting plan.
Yeah, I agree with you, the Acer platanoides that's out there, the Norway maple, is invasive, and unfortunately, it's in a really bad place for being invasive because it drops its seeds, and they just, they take over somewhere else, and luckily, that's not the modus of operandi, though, for a Norway maple either. Its modus of operandi is to kill off local species, around its own root structure, and take over that way. Whether or not it will, it can be invasive enough along the stream bed here. I don't know what the downstream banks look like. I suppose if there was Norway maples, but who knows where this one came from, I mean, it's, it came from upstream. It's been there for a long time. It's a fairly well-established tree, and I agree with Commissioner Varnum. I would not want to see it removed, but certainly, the under pruning, is a way of limiting its own invasiveness. In a way, it's kind of like throwing it back at the tree and limiting its own natural attack vector. So, all right, is there any other questions from the commission? Anything further from the city, Swati? Okay, what I'd like to do at this point in time is open this up. Is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns, either for or against this filing, this project? Is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns, either for or against? All right, the chair notes that there are none. Without any further questions from the commission, we have a DEP file number. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll offer a motion to close the public hearing.
By Commissioner Lovely. Do I have a second? By Commissioner Varnum. Any discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. I think we can condition this with an appropriate order, with conditions as has been discussed tonight. If
I'd like to move to issue a Lowell Standard Order of Conditions with the following special conditions: that the Lowell Conservation Commission be given notice before placement of any additional granite blocks, so that we can know how many and where they will be placed. The ones, not the ones that are out there, but additional ones that are needed. That during the project, the Norway maple on the north bank can be pruned back to allow more sun on the north bank if needed for light for the new plantings. And pruning doesn't mean take out half the tree. So that loose materials on the south bank that may be beyond the proposed project area be removed from the riverfront area and not allowed to erode into the river. That loose man-made materials such as bricks and cobblestones and any debris that may be there be taken out of the brook in the course of the work and disposed of properly. Anything else?
Yeah.
That the plantings, proposed plantings be checked against the invasive species list to make sure they're non-invasive types.
Yeah, the only reason I bring that up is, and nothing against Seacamp, but they are out of New Hampshire, and New Hampshire and Massachusetts don't share the same invasive species list.
Yeah, he does more work in Massachusetts. than
Yeah,
he does
okay,
in-
all right. I'm just saying, it's interesting, because in Maine, the Norway maple's not considered an invasive, so, it's just, and I know this is New Hampshire, but it's just, that's just one example, since we were talking about it tonight, so. All right,
So I will second.
second,
that,
by Commissioner Lovely of Commissioner Varnum's motion. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Commissioner Varnum?
Aye.
Commissioner Lovely? And chair is yes. And I note that the two new members are ineligible to vote on this tonight because of prior non-participation. So, all right,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Moving on to tonight's third item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability. City of Lowell. Project location is 50 Beaver Street to 56 Bachman Street and 282 Bridge Street to 6 Front Street. And it's rehabilitation of existing Rosemont and Lakeview flood walls. Mr. Young, if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Mark Young, Director for the Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility. And we're here for the request for the determination of applicability for the rehabilitation work that we want to do on the two existing flood walls in the city of Lowell. One located along Beaver Brook from roughly the Dracut line to Beaver Street, and the second along the Merrimack River from the Bridge Street Bridge roughly to around 200 yards upstream along the Merrimack. The flood walls were built by the Army Corps of Engineers in the early 1940s in response to the two catastrophic floods in the city in 1936 and 1938. And responsibility for the maintenance of these walls has been turned over to the city of Lowell for a number of years. During the annual inspection of the flood walls by the Army Corps of Engineers, they've identified some deficiencies that they want the city to address. And the work that we're seeking the determination of applicability for is the location of the work that we're going to do, and the work itself that we're going to do on the wall, which will consist of repairing some of the cracks in the wall, repairing some of the spalling, and some of the joints and missing joint material in the flood wall.
So what sort of, to me, a joint is one guy with a knife with mortar filling up a hole, but I'm thinking that that's not exactly what's going on here.
Probably two people.
Okay,
In our specs that we are going to develop and put out, we don't want to have mechanized equipment, and we have to follow the specific guidelines that have been developed by the Army Corps of Engineers of materials that we can put on the wall and how it's repaired. So it's not going to be done by, mixing of cement won't be by mechanical means out in the field. It'll be done by hand. Removing of the old joint material will be done by hand. Replacement of the joint material will be done by hand. The walls do not have to be realigned, there's no alignment, so there's no heavy machinery that's required. There's no machinery that, we don't want mixing equipment out in the field. We want it to be done all by hand.
Okay, so this is all handwork then?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
all right, okay. What are I mean, you're not even, you're pretty much just in the wetland buffer, you're not working directly over water at any time? Okay, all right. I don't have any questions.
Duration, a day or two?
No, it'll be some number of weeks, depending on how how many people he wants to have on his crews, because we have 2 locations. We're not going to outline a specific time frame for them to do it.
I was just trying to get a sense of scale, how big of a project is it?
It's just some substantial work to be done. And most of it's spalling work, which is not, there's not a lot of in-depth deterioration in the wall, but we want to get on top of it, and we want to make sure if we can correct it this one time, then the future maintenance will be a lot easier.
Sounds tedious for the initial time.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Now, Mark, is there going to be a lot of debris removal?
No.
Do they have to remove loose debris and decaying debris and stuff like that?
The only debris that they'll remove is potentially the old grout material between sections of the wall, because we're requiring them to replace that. That'll be the only material that they're going to remove. And of course, the spec will say that they have to take it off-site and dispose of it.
Okay, yeah,
properly.
that's what I'm getting at. Part of the specifications will be removal of it, and not just dumping it in place, so,
No, I'm
Yeah.
not going to allow that.
all right, okay. Commissioner Varnum?
I think this is obviously something that needs doing,
Yes, yes.
and when is the other side of Beaverbrook going to get their wall?
It's beyond me.
Okay.
Thanks for putting me on the hot seat. That's really out of my purview.
Commissioner Toner?
No comments at this time.
Commissioner McDonough? All right. Is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments regarding this request? All right, Chair notes none. Do I have a motion? I think we can -3 this fairly easily, so.
So yeah, I'll offer a motion to issue a -3 determination for this project.
By Commissioner Lovely, seconded by Commissioner Varnum. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Tonight's 4th item on the agenda is enforcement order, is the Khmer Buddhist Monks, Inc. Violation location is 58 and 66 Townsend Avenue, and it's destruction of plant life within bordering land subject to flooding. Tree clearing remnants were observed during a site inspection conducted on May 8th, 2015. Also, the placement of a dumpster pad. All right, so this was before us at the last meeting, and we ratified the enforcement order that was issued, but we had no interaction with the site owners, and they're here tonight. And I note that they have submitted a restoration plan to plant several pear trees. Let me, before you get started, will these produce pears? Do we know?
I have no idea.
You don't know?
I
Okay.
know it's going to be very pretty.
Okay.
But I do like to, permission to approach the bench to give you the official letter
Sure.
to Commissioner.
Sure.
Let me bring it to.
Yeah, go ahead. To be honest, I'm not a tree expert, but I do like to look at them.
Yeah, we already have.
The
Yeah,
one
we
she's
already
giving
have
you is
this.
the official one addressed it to the Commissioner. The one you got through email was to Swati.
The same one?
The same one, I spelled the word border wrong. Border as free meal and borderline, so I want to make sure that's corrected. I don't know if you catch it or not, but after I sent it, I caught it.
I'm usually good at catching that, but I didn't see it.
They pronounce the same. So the one you're getting now is the official. Address it to the commission.
Well, there, I
Yes.
guess.
English is easy to learn but hard to master. By the way, my name is Venerable Sarith Nin. I'm here to helping out CKBM with the issues here.
Okay. We have, as you may or may not know, somewhat of a history with this site, or, and the same owners. And we implore you that work, especially clearing of vegetation in this area is subject to regulation by the commission. And altering the site, especially bringing in, concrete pad or blocks or materials, is subject to regulation of the commission. And that's why you're here right
Yes.
now. This whole area and stretch of Pawtucketville is several feet under the 100-year floodplain. And because of that, this whole neighborhood has been impacted many times by rising floodwaters from the Merrimack River and from the Clay Pit Brook, and have suffered significant property damage throughout the years. And so the Wetlands Protection Act, part of its purpose, and also the City of Lowell Wetlands Ordinance, part of its purpose is the prevention of storm damage, and bringing in materials and fill and removal of vital vegetation that draws up and maintains the water levels is a critical aspect of the Wetlands Protection Act and of the city's bylaw, but especially in this neighborhood. This is a very closely watched area in the city because of its history and because of its situation. So this commission takes any alterations and any removal of vegetation very seriously here. Okay. The quick response by you is much appreciated, because that didn't happen the last time. The last time we visited this area.
I hope this is going to be our new trend.
Yes, me too, trust me.
You mentioned that there's some material that brought into the site. Since I've been here in the last 3 to 4 months, I've had a chance to walk around the area quite a bit and help clean up the debris that's been laying around for a while. With the purchase of the new facility at 66 Townsend Avenue, we found a lot of material that should not be there, that should have been in the wasteland, in the waste field somewhere. If there is something that you are aware of that we brought in, please bring it to our attention so we can look at it and educate our members and our visitors not to bring them in. But we found over 30 tires, rims, old rakes, bricks, cement blocks that was still in the bag. It's now actually a big boulder, many of them. And there's play sand scattered a lot, and we're trying to clear it out. So those are the debris that's already been there. But as far bringing stuff in, the only thing that I've seen that we brought in are actually flowers that we bought from Home Depots and Lowell.
Well, those are okay.
Yes.
I'm specifically speaking to the dumpster pad
Okay.
that was
Dumpster. Okay.
that was placed. okay? That's a, you know, again, in some areas, we measure by the feet, and the act provides for a foot-by-foot compensation if you bring in fill in a certain area. This particular stretch, because it's so flat and because it's so far under the floodplain, and the act allows us to do this, we're down to the inch, okay? So any slight alteration, and even to the extent that you bring in a bulldozer and you move dirt from point A to point B and change the topography matters, okay? So even that is critical, okay? It's not allowed under the act. So just for instance, you know, digging a hole with a bulldozer or something like that, or a bobcat, and piling it up 10 feet away is not allowed under the act in that particular area, okay? I mean, there's just limitations to what you can do, okay? So there's, it has to be permitted. There has to be notice to the Conservation Commission, and it has to be approved. I know it sounds sometimes onerous, but unfortunately, because of the situs of the land, because it is so low, and because the impacts to the neighbor and the neighborhood is so severe, that any activity like that has to be permitted through the Conservation Commission, okay? You know, felling of a tree. So there's two things that happen there. One is the tree is no longer available as a siphon to siphon up water, but two, that tree that, you know, you had only 3, 4, 5 feet of it in the floodplain, and that's okay because it was naturally there. Now the whole tree is in the floodplain, and it constitutes fill. And not only what was there originally, but the whole thing is there now and has to be removed. So you see how that works?
Yes,
And
I do.
so it's sort of a double-edged sword, so to speak, when you fell a tree like that. But, you know, for us, we like to see in tree removal, especially established trees, you know, and I get it. You know, sometimes you think it's dangerous, it's dying or whatnot. You know, it's going to cause property damage. It's usually this commission entertains tree removal in floodplain areas, provided we have notice, okay? Say, hey, you know, this tree, you know, it looks like it's going to fall down. It could hit the garage, hit the car, hit the playground, you know, hit the house, whatever. This commission, I don't think, has ever said no, okay? But we usually request that a new tree get replanted.
To
Because,
replace, though.
yeah, I mean, you know, we are the Conservation Commission. We like trees.
I
Okay.
agree, and personally, I like to see more tree come up as well, too. Some of the trees that we dispose are considered debris if it's falling down. We just didn't feel that it was need to, but now we learned that we have to let you know that we're removing a fallen tree. So we will try to continue to, like I said, to do this trend, to let you know first before we remove any trees in the area.
Okay. I don't have anything further. Are we going to see a filing on this? I know we have an enforcement order, but
Yes, we have been in communication with the property owner and have recommended that they file an RDA so in order to meet the health department's dumpster variance, where all commercial sized dumpsters need to be screened from the public right-of-way, we have recommended that they move the dumpster to their existing pavement so that it's not adding any more additional material in terms of fill. Because the dumpster variance calls for an impervious pad under the dumpster.
Right.
And also the fence, usually it's stockade fence. We wanted to propose something that the posts will go into these concrete blocks. And so that in the event there is a flood, it's easily toppled over, so that it's not actually causing much, and the bottom be raised, so that it will allow some water to flow through, and the rest, it will basically topple the fence. So an RDA for that, and also to indicate some of the trees that are of concern to them, either because of the location in proximity to the building on the property, or the deteriorated condition of the tree, so that they be indicated on a plan, and that they come before the commission as at least as an RDA request, so that the commission can provide them, with some determination.
Okay. Do you have a timeline as to when you think you will be filing that?
For the dumpster,
Yes. And for the further action with the trees?
how much time do you allow us to react to that?
Well, our next meeting is June, I don't know, probably the 9th? Is that right?
Need more time?
June 10th. All right, okay. 30 days, so September, April, June, and
That would be
November.
enough
Yeah,
time.
that's,
The property owner was talking about hiring a consultant to
oh, all
prepare
right,
the
so
plans and everything.
why don't we put this then just on for status for the second meeting in June?
That's the 24th.
Yeah, that would be the 24th.
June 24th?
Yes.
And all the applications are due 2 weeks before, so by June 10th, you should feel free to ask your consultant to get in touch with us, and I can inform them about the deadlines and everything.
Okay, we will.
All right, and hold on before you go, is there any questions from the commission?
We wanted to mention about the tree that we're removing, cutting the limb off, cutting one of the branch off. I don't know if that's already been addressed.
Yes, that was already discussed. This is the tree in the front, and the chairman had approved removal of that limb
Okay.
in the front.
And we were concerned about the tree that was behind the house, that is actually, the root are making its way onto the porch on the back, and we are concerned about that it may cause damage now that we don't see yet, and it can cause damage, possible cause damage to the future of the integrity of the foundation of the house. So we're very concerned about that. Is there anything we can do about that trees that maybe we can remove, or maybe what can we do as far as to prevent us from that?
Yeah, how big is that tree?
The tree, well, I'm 5'3", and my whole wrap around is 5, so I cannot wrap myself around that tree. I'm sorry, I didn't measure it.
That's okay, it's big, and you're it's not an imminent threat, it's something, an ongoing, you're worried about roots impacting the foundation.
We don't know if this was just recent or building up of problems. We just purchased this property recently, so we don't know that the owner before did not leave any document about the damage to the basement. But I do know that this spring, we have a lot of water down there, and every morning, we've been going down there and working the pump overtime just to pump it out. It takes us about an hour to 2 hours every morning, starting from February, March, April, and a little bit into May, until it was no more raining. Now, we don't know what's going to happen during fall, depending how much rain we're going to get and how much more winter this next season coming. So we're going to be surprised as much as you would be what's going to happen, how much it's going to cost us to, we have not break the porch, go down there, and do a measurement to see how much damage it's going to cost us in the future. I wouldn't know the first thing to do.
All right, I would suggest that what you've described is pretty common to, I would say, almost all residents of Pawtucketville and regardless of a tree or not. If you feel that the tree is causing some of this situation, and, you know, if a tree, as you described, that large, I would suggest has been there a lot longer than the house has. Who knows? I don't know, but,
Yeah, my guess is it's the water table coming up and not a crack in the foundation, so to speak, from roots in the tree. As the chairman was saying earlier, that you're within the floodplain. The water table there is probably pretty low to begin with. And we've heard from a number of people over the years about flooding in their basement. It's possible, but my guess is it's probably more the rise of the water table in the spring with the rain and the river cresting than having to do with water from rain hitting the ground and then going through cracks that may be near the foundation because of tree roots.
okay, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say you can't maintain your property. Okay, what I would suggest, though, is if that you feel that that's a threat, I for one don't feel it's an imminent thing, anything we need to act on now. If you want to include that as part of your filing, you know, you can do that. You can put anything you want in your filing. It's whether or not approval is given for it is a whole nother issue, but you certainly can make that request in your filing. But without any more information, I'm very reluctant to say, yeah, go ahead and do what you want with it
Yeah,
at this point in time.
I don't expect you to say yes or no right away, but this is more of a information, just more like a preliminary discussion more about the issue that we may have in the future and about that tree.
Yeah, as a matter of, as a point of reference, a healthy tree that size is probably doing more to keep water out of your basement than it is putting water in, because the amount of water a healthy tree that size uses on a daily basis is probably, I don't know, maybe an order of magnitude more than what your sump pumps can pump in a day.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking, I don't know.
A lot of gallons.
Yeah, a lot of
gallon?
water.
A lot of
So-
evapotranspiration.
So if there's a drought, I could just cut the tree a little bit and get the water out?
A tree is an amazing siphon.
Yeah, I would agree to that.
I mean, if you think about it, how many tons of green leaves are on it, and the canopy exposed to the sun all day, and how much water is evaporating and getting used as fuel. I'll tell you, it's way more than a single horsepower sump pump.
Now, does the tree root continue to grow even as every year? Does it continue to grow whatever
No,
direction it goes?
it only extends out as far as the drip line for the most part.
For like the branch or the,
The outer
The outer end of
the outer
limbs.
canopy of the tree.
okay.
So, and generally it seeks the path of least resistance. Most tree roots, on flat surfaces won't infiltrate foundations. They'll go around the foundation, but they really won't go into it. I mean, yeah, sometimes they do, but for the most part, unless it finds a crack that it can exploit, it generally doesn't infiltrate a concrete foundation, so. Okay, I don't know if there's any other questions.
I was out at the site with Swathi last week. Concerning this tree that you were discussing, it's a healthy red maple. It looks extremely healthy, and it's shading the house, and I don't know why you would want to cut it and have sun beating down on your roof and making the house hot. The porch, I believe, doesn't have a foundation, so I believe the porch was probably put on after the tree was there. And it didn't look like a threat to me. But backing up, we seem to be dealing with these two properties, 58 and 66, backwards. You know, it seems like the enforcement order comes first, and then we hear about the plans. I would like this to be the last enforcement order that this property gets, that you keep up a communication. I know you stated to me that that was your goal, to communicate with us better. And this needs to be done before you do any work out there, not while you're doing it or after you're doing it. I would like to see, as far as the filing, something a little more detailed. I can see where the 4 trees are going, but we had all of those other issues that I hope would be on the request for determination when it's filed. We have dead trees that, you know, they seem to be on the property line, so I'd almost like to make your life easier by saying, not knowing exactly where that property line is, that the Lowell Conservation Commission might be able to do something about those 2 dead pines that look like, no, there's a tree that looks like it's a threat. It's the 2 pines right at the rear of the lot.
From 66 or 48?
Well, in between. Just before you pass into the rear area, there's a white pine on each side that's completely dead and all
Oh, yes, yes.
falling apart. They look like they're going to come down if the wind keeps up. I would like mention of invasive species on your filing. The place is full of, what is it, knotweed?
Knotweed, Japanese
And,
bamboo.
That's something that you just need to keep after. It's not good for the floodplain. It's very hard to kill, and it spreads. And I know if neighbors see you cutting that, I would like to have it on file that that's something you're permitted to do, because you certainly need to.
Yes, we are going
keep
to
after it.
continue to battle with the knotweed or Japanese bamboo.
Right.
I also found out it's also called Mexican bamboo as well, too.
Yeah, just be sure you mention that you would like to cut that, and then it'll be on record. The tires, it was quite artistic what you did with them. However, I think you need to find some way to remove the tires from the property, which are fill in the floodplain. I know they were there when you bought the property, but there's dozens of tires out there. He's piled them up into interesting little shapes.
So can we do this? Can we say we are going to continue to remove the Japanese bamboo? It comes up every 2 weeks.
Right.
To file every 2 weeks and say we got to cut this.
No,
you just say-
no, you're misunderstanding. It's the removal of invasives you can do as a matter of course, okay?
Okay.
Depending on the level and method that you're using. Okay, if you're going in there with a bobcat and digging them out, that's one issue. If you're using a controlled substance to do it, for instance, I think, well, what's the company there that makes the not Riddick's, I can't, Roundup. Yeah,
I think we're doing
Roundup makes a
Roundup.
specific, a Japanese bamboo and a specific herbicide. Yeah, thank you.
Currently, we are using a primitive method.
Right. Hand pulling them, which is really the most effective way of doing it.
We just walk by, kick them,
Right.
chop them.
Yeah, no, it's your best bet there is just as part of your ID, say you want to do that, okay? And that just becomes part of the permitting process. No, you don't need to file every time you go out there to do that. No, that's not what the act is getting at.
Okay.
Okay, that you can do as a matter of course. You can plant flowers around the house. That you can do as a matter of course. There's no issue
Okay.
there. Okay, you can take flowers out, you can put flowers in. It's trees that are the big ones, okay? And again, pruning a tree is fine, okay? Limbing a tree, it depends on the type of activity. If it's done in a butcher-type manner where it's likely to kill the tree, that then becomes an issue. But removal of a limb or limbs here and there is certainly an okay activity. If in doubt, if it's extensive pruning, of several trees, if in doubt, send a letter to, or pick up the phone and call. Okay, the folks in the office are all trained experts. Okay, they know the Wetlands Protection Act, they know the city bylaw. Okay, if they feel that it's an activity that requires more than just a phone call, they'll let us know. Okay, and they'll let you know. Okay, generally they can deal with those issues without any board action, depending on the level. It's board action is required. And they know. Okay, sometimes they have questions. Sometimes they call me. Sometimes it goes a little bit further up the up the pipe, so to speak, and there's do we need a permit for this? Is this something that requires board action? Okay, so even sometimes questions do arise. What I suggest to you is the type of activity that occurred is one that really should have been done under a permit from the Conservation Commission. And that's why you're here. Okay, that's why the enforcement order was issued. That's why, that's why we're ordering that a filing be made, okay, for the restoration and for further action going forward, okay? But as part of your filing, put in that as Commissioner Varnum has requested, that you want to remove the invasives, okay? Put that in there, okay? I'm suggesting it doesn't really need to be done, but put that in there because, as Commissioner Varnum suggested, it's a way of saying, hey, this is an okay activity. We're allowed to do this because, as you are finding out, the neighbors in Pawtuckettville are very vigilant about activities going on in the neighborhood because of the history of flooding and damage that's happened. So they're very acute and tuned into all activities that go on, okay? And not just on your property. I'm talking across Pawtuckettville. It's everywhere, okay?
I've seen
They're very vigilant.
I've seen in our neighbors too.
Yeah.
The other one that we have that I think is also invasive is the vines. Now, that's
The vines that grow on the trees?
yes.
Yeah, you can
it
take
just
those
pull the
off.
trees on. Is that
Yeah.
fall in the
And
same category?
Yes, those kill the trees off.
Okay.
Put that in part of your filing, certainly, okay? But again, and we had this over on 40, we had this over on the other property where that was all they built a fence out of it. Okay, I mean, it was like a barrier was built and it can't remain on the property. It becomes a fire hazard. Two, it's been very dry. So it becomes a fire issue. As it dries out, it turns into tinder and, kindling. But two, it's also fill in a floodplain. Okay, so that debris has to be removed from the site, okay? Or, some sort of proper composting needs to be established, okay?
Okay.
But again, put that in as that you want to do that, okay, as part of your filing,
Yes.
okay?
We will put that in our filing.
Okay, and that way it protects you too, so.
Absolutely.
All right. Any further comments or questions from the commission? Because right now, what I'm going to suggest is that we continue this for status to the June 24th hearing date, and hopefully we'll have a filing by then, and if we don't, at least we have an open dialogue going as to what's going on. And again, the quicker you get this in, the quicker you can do stuff on the property.
Absolutely.
Okay, with regard to this.
So our next meeting will be June 24th?
The 24th. Yeah, unless you think you can come in, and again, if you think you can make the June 10th deadline, file for that. I mean, there's no, this isn't stopping you from doing that. I don't want you to keep coming back and not, you know, and we're not doing anything.
Okay.
And it just gets continued to another date. So I'm just trying to set a realistic date where we think, you know, based on what Swathi has indicated, where we feel that you can, you know, make a filing to come before us, so.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. And there's no motion, this will be on for June 24th.
Okay.
Okay? Good night.
Thank you. Yeah, good night.
All right, and the fifth item on tonight's agenda is an enforcement order. Flago Realty Corporation, violation location is 423 Pawtucket Street, and it's construction without a permit within bordering land subject to flooding, riverfront and wetland buffer. Construction activity was observed during a site inspection conducted on May 15th of this year.
It's a tongue twister, huh?
Ms. Delania,
Good evening, Mr.
if you could
Chairman,
identify
members of the
yourself for the
commission.
record.
Kenneth Lania, Cornerstone Land Consultants, representing the applicant. I also have with me tonight Steve DeRosa, Flago Corp., as well as his right-hand man, Jeff. And we're here as a requirement of the enforcement order. If you don't mind, I'd like to approach and hand out some handouts.
All right, so, Swathi, if you could just indicate, and just hold on, Ms. Lania, if you could just fill us in as to why
Sure.
the enforcement order was originally issued.
Sure. We had the building inspector approach for the building permit for replacing the existing footprint of the building, and the entire footprint was outside the floodplain as per our GIS records, based on the FEMA floodplain provided. However, when we were at the site, it basically showed that there were signs that there were plans, construction was proceeding to have decks. And I checked with the building inspector if those were approved as part of the building permit, because my immediate concern was the deck already in the existing footprint, or if it was an addition exceeding the footprint, because the floodplain line was extremely close to the FEMA floodplain line was extremely close to the existing footprint. So at that point, we didn't have any more information. We didn't find a LOMA certificate issued for the site, so we didn't have any site elevation of the record. So we were basically going off of what we had based on the FEMA floodplain. So that's why the enforcement order was issued. And we recommended, they did get in touch with us quickly. I recommended that they provide a plan which records the site elevation in relation to the revised flood map as of last year's July. And they basically said they will have that information for this meeting.
All right, so, as you know, we used to go by the elevations, the firm profile, as you know, Ms. Lania. And
Yes, sir.
now, because they changed the law, now we go by these satellite shots or flyovers or whatever they are, and the lines are about who knows how wide,
They're very, very generous to
Yeah,
the
there's a
commission.
huge margin of error. So the long and the short of it is, we have to err on the side of caution. You're in a floodplain, you've requested an adjustment from firm, and from what I understand,
Yeah, well, I mean, what we did, once we were notified by Swathi after the meeting was provided with them, I believe they met with the building inspector, Mr. Shanahan, Jeff, and Swathi. There was a discussion that there was in fact some concern that the property might be in the floodplain. The decks were an addition onto the existing dwelling, so they are theoretically new construction. They were a requirement of the building department to obtain egresses because, as you know, Mr. DeRosa is going through this entire structure, rehabbing it, bringing it back up to, you know, the City of Lowell quality standards so that he can then utilize it for housing for members of the City of Lowell. What we're hoping to do here was we acknowledged that the decks were new construction. It seemed as though the floodplain at the time was really the main concern, so we went out and did an elevation certificate after reviewing the FEMA firm map, determining that the elevation of the flood elevation at that point, 100-year, was 97.0. We went out, checked the topography on the lowest point on the property, ultimately focusing on the retaining wall of the North Canal that runs entirely along the back of the property, and we determined from GPS elevation that that lowest point was 97.1.
Okay.
So the entire site is in fact outside of the 100-year floodplain. That wall, I got to assume, which was built probably 100 years ago, was built more than likely by the good old folks of Lowell, knowing that the elevation was 97, and they put it 1 inch higher than the elevation of the floodplain.
All right, so you need Yaloma, and, right, and, you know, because right now, we've got to go by the map.
Well, I guess technically,
I mean,
Technically, you
in the
guys
good
have
old days, we could go by the firm profile,
right.
but now FEMA and firm go by the firm profile, and we go by the map.
And when you say the map, do you mean your GPS map or your,
This
that
thing.
map?
This thing.
Right.
Okay, and this thing says floodplain. Okay, so
So you physically go by the area shown in depiction of that blue dashed line, is that correct?
yeah.
Okay. And ultimately, there is an elevation provided on the blue
Yeah, no,
dashed line.
I get that. And, I mean, you've been around long enough. We used to go by the profile, and
Right.
if that was the case, then we could sit here and say, yeah, no, you're fine.
Right.
Okay. But now we can't do that anymore. So you need firm to come back and say, we'll adjust it.
And that's fine.
Yeah, and you've already applied
Again,
for that.
We've already done the elevation
Yeah.
certificate. We just submit the application into
Yeah,
the
and
LOMA.
that
I
takes.
believe actually we do the E-NOI filing now for the LOMAs. You can do them right online.
Right,
So,
right.
again,
And it takes about a month to get that back.
30
so,
days. Yep.
Yeah, so what, I agree with you. 5 years ago, this would be a non-issue right now,
Right.
but now it is an issue, and
I think ultimately what we're looking to do here is obviously satisfy the commission under this regulation. Mr. DeRosa was very quick to obtain me to verify that there were no concerns.
right.
So ultimately, what we need to do to satisfy the commission, we're already in the process of doing.
Yeah, and I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah.
What I'm inclined to do is just table this until, and then just, you don't need to come back. Once you get your loan, and just
I'll just-
submit it.
Not a
Right.
problem. That'll be fine.
So, I'm,
And again, I'm comfortable with it. Like
Well,
that, like I
yeah,
said,
well, I
you
mean,
know the
we'll-
timeline. It
we'll
takes 30 days.
we'll ratify the enforcement order.
Yeah.
Just as a matter of procedure.
Absolutely.
And then just, as I said, once you get your LOMA, just file it, and then we can just lift it.
So just to make it clear for them, they don't need to file a notice of intent. Basically, this enforcement order is just tabled until.
An NOI will make it moot.
Sure.
The LOMA will make it moot. If they're out of the
Sure.
floodplain, they're out of the floodplain, so.
Sure.
Okay, that's kind of, I hate when they remove the profiles, because we had the profiles. We knew how to use them. Granted, some conservation commissions didn't know how to use them, and they used these stupid maps. Excuse my language, but these lines are the size of a house, for crying out
Oh, yeah,
loud.
absolutely.
It's ridiculous, but that's what we have to go by now. We don't have a choice. And this thing says floodplain.
Right.
So you
Totally
got to get your letter.
Understandable.
So, all right.
I share your pain because lenders require the same thing, and
it's
I
unbelievable.
had to argue. I didn't have to go through, I ultimately won my argument, but
I mean, it's relentless what the revised maps did
Right.
to the lenders and the poor homeowner. I mean, it really is a shame that they're forcing all these folks who are clearly outside of the floodplain to actually obtain these elevation certificates at the cost of, $1,000 a pop, and it hurts.
Right.
You know, it's a shame. Somebody's got to pay for the levies.
no, I hear you. So
Right.
I'm very sympathetic to this issue and want to simplify it as much as possible.
Thank you very much.
All right, and any other questions or comments from the commission?
So is all the construction of decks outside the riverfront area as
Yes.
well?
Yeah, and there's a defined retaining wall there too anyway. I mean, it's all,
Yeah, I mean,
there's no.
like I said, I've only been in town for, since '94, so I got to assume it's been there for 50 or 100 years. It's a very old wall, and
Does that belong to the homeowners or to somebody else?
the property line.
Below the retaining wall is a national park, isn't it?
Well, it's the Northern Canal for
Okay.
Ennals National Park and
Yeah.
the work that they do to funnel the water into the, dam area for electro-hydro power. So ultimately, I believe that wall was constructed for the Northern Canal.
What are the plans for that tree that's right on the wall?
Currently, there are no plans to touch or remove the tree at all.
I was a little concerned if you.
I know you would be, Louisa, absolutely.
Take that down.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So we offer a motion to ratify the order?
Yeah, just, hold on a sec. Okay, well, we have a motion to ratify the order, seconded.
Seconded?
By Commissioner Toner, motion by Commissioner Lovely. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, I mean, this isn't a bad thing. You're stuck between regulations gone amok, unfortunately. Our hands are sort of tied as to what we can do, but we're not taking any action. Your engineer has already done what he needs to do right now. And again, what Commissioner Lovely had mentioned, it's, if you ever borrowed money on the property, insurance, they may not have notified anything of it yet. It may not have come on anyone's radar, but I'll tell you, if you had a loss, this would come out of the woodwork faster than you could say, finish the phone call. And they'd be denying the loss based on that, okay, because of, you're in a floodplain, you don't have a permit for it, and so, I mean, just, unfortunately, as I said, you got stuck in a regulation change that we really don't have, floodplains are one of those things, it's a bright line. There's no gray area here. It's either you're in the floodplain or you're not in the floodplain, and 1 inch is the difference, okay? And this thing says you're in it. Mr. Lania says you're not. He's probably right. He's, based on his expertise, he's done everything he needs to do to get the correction. You've heard a term called LOMA thrown out, and that's just a letter back from firms saying, yeah, we agree with what Mr. Laney is certified to, and they make a map adjustment based on that. They don't redraw the map, it's just an attachment that goes, so if you look it up, it pops up on their thing, oh, this particular property has been removed from thing, even though the lines still say you're in it. Okay, it's just something you can give to your insurance, you can give to any future mortgagees, saying, we're not in a floodplain, so, okay, so it protects you. All right. Let's put this on generally, and just when the
Absolutely.
thing comes in, why don't we just put it on for status so we don't forget about it?
I mean, I'll have the Loma file by next Tuesday, Mr.
Okay.
Zacharow.
All right.
So I figure a month from then would put us into that first meeting in July.
Yeah, well, we don't have a first meeting in July typically. We might this year, I don't know. That's the 4th, although we probably will.
So we should be okay.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, why don't we do the second meeting in July then? Okay, and that gives you plenty of time.
Absolutely.
if
And like I
there's
said,
a-
once I have it completed, I'll
yeah,
make sure I provide
backlog.
it to
And
Swaffy.
again, you don't need to come in again.
Yep,
Okay, if you
absolutely.
get it, you don't need to come in. It's as
Thank you, sir.
simple as that, okay?
All right,
All right.
wonderful. Thank you
All right,
very
thank
much.
you.
You guys have a good evening.
Do you need to mention this letter?
Yeah.
Take care.
All right, good night, thank you. And then the enforcement order on the Wood Street property, they've sent in an update. I guess they found the 2002 filing, but there was no elevations on it? No? All right. Well, we'll let, Caitlin seems to know more about this milling process than I do, but, you know, I mean, to their side, I mean, I guess if the contractor said, you know, and I don't know of any paving contractors that are gonna give you more pavement, so they'll probably give you less pavement.
I mean, not commenting on the specifics, but that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
In my experience, so.
So, all right. So just, yeah, let them know as quickly as that they can get this in to it. Are you,
From the next one, Reverse Edge.
oh, all right. So, okay. What next one?
Remember I told you we had one of the contractors from the Reverse Edge project who wanted to give you an update on the project
Oh, yeah, okay.
and also wanted to get your feedback on some staging area he wanted for some additional work.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin
Hi,
O'Brien.
Kevin.
I am the builder.
And I got your phone call, by the way, but I just got waylaid
That's,
and calling you back, and I apologize for that. So.
appreciate that. I am the builder over at the River's Edge project, over what used to be the, well, one of the names, Shaughnessy Terrace Housing Project. I have been over there for the last 9 years of my life building those houses. We are going to be coming in for some of the houses that are going to be closing, that have orders of conditions on them. What I would like to do is pass out pictures of what we're doing. I'm going to do them in 4 different stages, just so, because there's a lot of pictures, and I can explain on the board what I'm trying to do, so.
And I'm assuming this is all in an effort to get certificates of compliance for these houses, or?
These 6 pictures right here of the property in back of what we're going to be coming in for. This is the compliance on property. That's it, right here. It's lot 97, lot 98, lot 99. This is an old picture, combined the 3 lots. Lot 99 had wetlands. We were very close to the wetlands there. I think we determined that we didn't fill any wetlands. That will be part of the certificate of compliance when Stantec gives you that. I believe we're going to be in at the next meeting for that. So those pictures show this whole area behind you.
What's the sign behind the, embedded in the tree there? What?
Those, when French did the work out there on this roadway, and another roadway over here on Acton 5, those signs are required by the conservation commission.
They, wetland boundary fences, no snow fences, you know, what do they say?
They're the whole conservation commission
presumably to delineate wetland boundary?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, I was just trying to figure what the fence was.
Oh, speak into it, okay. Sorry. You're welcome. Now you can hear me. Next set of pictures I'm going to give you is for... I will give you a set of these. These pictures are on Eklund Drive, lot 21, 22, and 23, which are these three lots right here. You can see if you go through the pictures, I started over here and just worked my way around. There is a retainer wall that we finished here last fall. There's a fence on top of it. You can see on the pictures that it's vegetated outside the wall area now. On top of it, we actually finished the lot areas so they'd start growing now. Behind the second lot, which is lot 22, it does not show a retainer wall on the plan, but when you came off the back of the duplex, off the patios, the slope was like a 1-to-1. So we put a stone wall in there just to give it a little bit more safety. And good. The third set of pictures are also on Eklund Drive. They show the big retainer wall, which is about 300 feet long. We also did that. That was the one that was the closest to the wetlands. I can show you that on the plan, too. We did that wall last year also, last fall. That is over on this section right here. You can see where on that plan where we were right up against the wetlands when we did that one. So the wall is built, the fence is on top of it, all the soils that were dug out were put up against the wall again, so it stayed there. You can see a little further up here, there's a couple of spots that had, there's a couple of small walls that show that there's no wall there. So we took care of the slope on the hill. We've got a berm on the top of it, so if we do have any heavy rains, it won't wash it out.
Kevin, do you know that the area behind that retaining wall, the wetland area there behind that retaining wall, that was, if you had heard us earlier, if you were paying attention, they did some extensive invasive removal there when this was originally conditioned. Boy, this is kind of, when was the original order on this? This is, yeah, it was, yeah, this goes way back. I don't know, Luis, if you remember that. They went in and I think they actually did some individual removal, waded through the water and removed the, I don't know if it was bamboo or purple loosestrife or.
Oh, there was lots of bamboo out there.
Yeah. It looks a lot more open now. I don't know.
Well, when we went in there, when we originally went in there, I went back in '06, I went in there, March of '06, that had been disturbed anyway. And quite frankly, with the houses that are on Eklund Drive now, we did the 10 lots on the inside here of Eklund Drive. What we all thought was when these houses start getting occupied, not only the wall, but we needed a lot of fill over there. So what we did is we kind of get rid of that before anybody moved into the houses, so the trucks weren't, I mean, there were some days we were bringing 135 loads of fill in there. I mean, you don't need little kids going in and out of there when we, you know, when we're bringing that fill in. So before these got occupied, we put the wall up and filled it. So I think everything as far as wetlands, that any of the roads that are built on now, anything that abuts the wetlands or is within 100 feet of it is seeded, walls are done, whatever the case may be.
Are you going to propose any, and this is any sort of noise abatement structures or fencing or anything to shield the development from 495?
They haven't proposed anything.
Nothing? All right.
Actually, the way we're building the houses now, the houses are pretty tight with these new energy codes that we have. I've actually been in the houses on Eklund Drive, and it's not bad. Quite frankly, I think we're building the houses too tight, but that's just my personal opinion. I think we'll deal with that 10, 15 years down the road. That's going to be another issue because we're going to be dealing with molds and mildews, but we have to follow the codes, and they're very tough, and but we follow it.
Drainage right now, stormwater drainage, where does it go? Does it go in catch basin? Because I'm not familiar with the project overall.
What was the
Stormwater drainage from like the streets, is it directed away from the wetland? Is it go into, catch
Yeah,
basins,
There's a storm drainage system in there that's in the roads. Over here over on Eklund Drive, there is a storm scepter in this neck of the woods that picks up mostly everything that's in this top half of the project, let's say. The rest of it goes out into the wetlands out in the back.
after going through any sort of TSS removal process?
I believe so. I don't know about I know the storm scepter would certainly do that, but I don't know what's proposed for out in the back.
Well, presumably that was probably all taken care of when you did your notice of intent.
What's that?
When you did your notice of intent, all those specs were probably worked out.
Well, I think the whole, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to talk out of turn, but I think the whole project has an order of conditions on it.
Right.
You know, even the area out in the back that's not built yet.
I got you. All right,
Okay.
thanks.
The last of the pictures that I just gave you are a shot of this area right here, 80-way loop. We've built these houses over here where they want us to do these next 9, which is over on 80-way loop. Those pictures are with me standing here taking pictures this way. As you can see, and as you can see on the plan, the houses are real tight together, which is, quite frankly, the concept over there is perfect, I think. I think the whole concept worked nice. The problem that I've got as the builder is I've got no staging areas. I'm out of land. I mean, this was always, you know, when we were doing everything up front, this is where we stockpiled our loom, we stockpiled our stone. So what we're looking for if the board would entertain this, is digging this area out and back so we can fill it and have that as our staging area. Now, we're still, the only wetlands areas that were delineated are this area here and this area out in the back. Now, I know we're far enough away from this, and I believe we're 100 feet away from this.
Yeah, what's your recollection? I thought we just, my recollection is that we limited the OOC to certain areas, but Luis,
Chris, I would agree with you.
I don't remember. I don't have yeah, I know there was a couple of orders out there. I think the crossing over to the island was an order, and then the back area was an order, and then the replication, the replication areas were in order. But you want to use that spot that's outside of the jurisdictional areas. It's not if the orders encompass the whole plan, what I'm suggesting to you is, because it's non-jurisdictional, even if the orders purportedly did encompass the entire project, that would have been beyond our authority to do that. So,
Well,
yeah,
I-
you can use that area for stockpiling.
All right, and I wouldn't disagree with you, but again, we just don't want to, you guys have been very gracious with us, and the city's been fantastic as far as this whole project goes. We all know what the issues are out there. I mean, it's turned
Yeah,
upside down.
I mean, I suppose the only thing I would say is if you're gonna be, just, isolate them from rain runoff and stuff, so it's not getting into the storm scepters and, running over the streets.
Oh,
and-
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
yeah.
only thing I would suggest, but,
I mean, this road's in, and this road's in up to here. Excuse me, up to about this point. So I don't even think we're gonna have any erosion that's gonna go into the drain.
Yeah.
There's no erosion that's gonna come back into the existing drainage system in the roads.
right. Yeah, so, no, for me, I don't have an issue with that at all, that you use that for stockpiling.
This
And
is
staging.
more of a courtesy. We would just assume you guys have eyes on it and know about it instead of going out there and
Yeah,
going,
just so,
why don't you just ask us?
yeah,
I just wanted to inform you, the whole development, including the crossing and everything, is under one order. And we have been informed by the developer that pretty soon, with regard to some of the completed plots with the construction company, in order for them to allow the, sale and everything, they may be coming to the commission for partial
partial releases, yeah,
COC.
oh, yeah, that's fine. It's, again, when this, Luis has got a pretty good memory of this too. I mean, we spent a number of meetings on this one.
I'm sure you did.
I'd probably say 5 or 6, maybe even 10. I mean, we had quite a few meetings on this. Several informals and a lot of open public hearings on it too. I'll tell you right now, Kevin, I have no interest in, looking at the map, the northwestern part. I could care less about any of that property. That's not our area of concern. Our area of concern was all along the wetland boundary.
Well, just so, again, just so you know, so the commission knows, all that area along the boundary is stabilized.
Right.
It's either got the walls the way it's supposed to be done,
Right.
it's got it done. So when we
That-
come in for the certificate of compliance,
Yeah,
we're gonna
this
get
is-
partial, but at least you can go out there and say, wait a minute, that grass is growing, it's been growing for
Right.
2-3 months now.
Yeah, this is such a vast area that, as you know, I mean, I don't know what the total acreage out there is, but, 10 acres, maybe more.
I think it's 35.
Oh, okay, it's even bigger than, and it's a huge wetland area that surrounds it. The wetland area is very well defined. The mapping is extensive. I mean, what is that, 100-to-1 plan? I don't even know what that is.
Well, that was the existing plan, I just had it blown up earlier
Yeah.
so it showed better, but.
I mean, that's a very small-scale plan, and so, like I said, we had very specific areas that we were concerned with, and what you're telling us is, I mean, you can do what you want up there, is provided that the other boards and commissions are okay with it, that they're not we could care less, so, okay.
One more thing on the back of lot
Couldn't care
99.
less.
Which is this one right here, where we talked about that wetland area. We've planted 50 juniper trees on the hill where it was close there. So hopefully that'll prevent any
Good.
erosion or runoff, going in, because it was close. I mean, we had the wetlands, Stantec had their wetland soils guy out there, and, we had that conversation with you, that meeting with you, and we don't think it was anywhere near the wetlands, but again, we did that as a safety.
Good.
Little insurance.
All right, and I note that there's some nice places out there, so.
Place is flying now.
Yeah, people should be tickled pink about what's happening out there, so. It's a
Well,
far
the
cry,
problem was the market
far
changed.
cry
and-
from what it was 20 years ago.
Oh, it's a whole different world.
Yeah. So,
Home ownership's a wonderful thing.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time and on short notice, like an hour ago.
You too. Maybe not after tonight, although this isn't too bad. All right, do we have anything else, Swathi? No? Okay, no other business, and there's no meetings or minutes to approve. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll offer a motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Commissioner,
Who's been silent?
Second.
by Commissioner McDonough. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it, and good night.